So, guys, before I watched this episode, I heard that the mid-season finale of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is going to be the biggest, most shocking episode they've ever done. And after this episode, I have no idea how that is going to work. Hey guys, Kevin and Matt for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 3, Episode 9, Closure. And holy shit, guys, I mean, can we talk about an episode that felt like a finale but wasn't a finale? This really felt like the mid-season finale, and next week's the mid-season finale. It's insane. I mean, seriously, this episode was just so great, so shocking. I mean, just in the first 4 minutes, it was shocking, and I love that. Uh, like I said, episode 5 is still the strongest episode this season, but this is definitely up there. I love this episode. I could not wait for this episode, of course, because after that big reveal 2 weeks ago, I think that was an amazing episode. This episode, I think, was even better than that, honestly. I really love this episode, but let's just get into it. There's a lot about this episode that I really love, and there's really a lot I want to talk about and I need to cover, because so much happened in this episode. And right away, we get what was probably one of my favorite scenes this entire show, honestly. Not just because of what happened, well, what happened was fucking sad, but the beginning of it I really like because we don't really get a lot of scenes of characters just talking. There isn't a lot of that on this show. Coulson and Rosalind, they're sitting down for a meal consisting of burgers from their favorite burger place, and Coulson notices that Rosalind has a book of matches from the Half Moon Pub. Now, I was a bit surprised here that Coulson and Rosalind aren't at each other's throats right now. Even though Rosalind was working for Hydra, she's putting that all aside. She doesn't want to work for them. And Rosalind said that Banks thinks she's crazy for still seeing Coulson. Coulson says he was right to spy on her since she was working for Hydra, even if she didn't know it. He apologizes anyways. They discuss Malick and how he has his hands in every Washington organization, because now they know he's pretty much, like we found out in the last episode, that Hydra's basically been running everything, and we didn't even know it, including the ATCU, and Rosalind plans to keep working like nothing ever happened, and she's in the middle of discussing how Malick doesn't know anything when a bullet comes right through the window and hits her in the neck, and Rosalind dies. And I'm talking like the first 4 minutes here, guys. I was shocked in my mind when this happened. I could not believe they killed Rosalind off in the first 4 minutes. Now, let me just tell you, I knew Rosalind died in this episode because I did read spoilers that she died. I did not know it was this early. I thought the episode was going to end with her death. But no, the episode starts with her death. I think made the episode that much more powerful because it showed that really no one is safe. Anything can happen at any point, and I love seeing that. I mean, a lot of people have been saying that the show is afraid to kill off major characters, and after this, I really do say bullshit. Now, Rosalind was not a main character. I knew she was going to be on Lawn because, of course, of the fact that, what's her name, plays Quinn on Unreal, so I knew that she wasn't going to be on for that much longer, but I did not know they were going to actually kill her off. But what I love about this is Coulson leaps right to her side, and, there's no question of who did it. It was absolutely Ward who did it. He pulls his eye off the sight of the sniper rifle, and what I love about this is that we finally get to see that badass Coulson that we've been waiting for. I mean, I've heard people say numerous times that Coulson doesn't want Coulson doesn't want to do anything violent, or Coulson doesn't want to take action. And this is the episode where Coulson realizes, you know what, I need to stop negotiating and just fucking go out like a badass, and I love that. So Ward calls Coulson. Ward tells Coulson that he knows what it feels like to have someone he loves bleed out in front of him. And Coulson messages for help as Ward monologues, saying that Rosalind couldn't have stopped Malick from opening another portal. And they were listening to them the entire time, pretty much. They're listening to their entire conversation. So then a Hydra henchman bursts through the apartment door. Coulson fights him off using as a human shield against gunshots from a second Hydra agent. Coulson knocks them both out. I mean, we're realizing that there are Hydra agents everywhere at this point. He grabs a can of air freshener, sets it above 3 candles. It goes off like a flash grenade in the eyes of several more Hydra agents. Coulson heads out the window, shoots the Hydra henchman until Mack arrives with an extraction vehicle. And that was insane what happened. I could not get over this is like the first 4 minutes of the episode. Like I said, guys, it's like the first like 6 minutes. I mean, it really was insane. And just realizing that Hydra was even a bigger threat than we thought. I mean, we knew how big of a threat Hydra was, but I did not think Hydra would do something this drastic so soon, and they did. I mean, I didn't know that Rosin was gonna stick with Coulson either. I thought she was gonna betray him, but no, the complete opposite happened. And basically, Hydra, you don't get to make choices. You work for Hydra, you work for Hydra. You don't work for Hydra, you die. It's that simple. So Mack brings Coulson back to base. The team watches as Coulson mournfully walks towards his office. You can tell he really feels really bad about what's happened, and Coulson told Mack to get to the interrogation room ready. And in his office, Coulson looks at the blood on his shirt. He rips the shirt off, and the book of matches falls to the floor, stained with blood. And I mean, this was just, it was so badass. I loved it. Clark Gregg, this entire episode was just amazing. Probably one of his best performances he's given all season, or in any episode of this show. So downstairs, the team here is crashing in Coulson's office. They don't know what it is, and Melinda and Coulson then speak alone. And this scene was definitely very sad, but I also thought this scene was really satisfying and kind of made me feel something. I'll get into what I think is going to happen from this scene. He literally wants to speak to every single team member to sit down so that he can get any detail that he might have about Ward out of them. Because think about it, Coulson really was the only one that still thought Ward had some good in him. I mean, if you remember last season, he tried to get Ward to help them out, and then we realized that Ward completely betrayed him and was with Hydra the whole time, so that didn't really work out. But if you really think about it, Coulson was the last one to feel like Ward could have some good in him, and we know that he didn't, obviously. But this scene was so great. Basically, every single one of them talk about their experience with Ward. You know, Melinda talks about how when the two slept together, and Fitz talks about, you know, just how he was and things like how his betrayal was. Jemma talks about how he saved her life, and then Daisy, it's very interesting. You know, Daisy reached out to comfort Coulson, but he's very cold. He's been really hurt, and he really doesn't want any sympathy from anyone. So Banks arrives at the base and meets with Mack and the science team. Daisy shares how she and Ward felt for each other, and I really love this scene here, I have to say, because honestly, yeah, it is pretty true. And despite everything that happened, she admits that they shared a troubled history and that he never lied to her. Which, yeah, if you think about it, Ward never really wronged Daisy. Ward, I think, does care about Daisy, and she can never understand how he fell under Garrett and Hydra's spell. But she clarifies that she could never forgive him, and she said Ward doesn't kill because he feels nothing, but because he feels too much. You know, he has all these feelings he just can't comprehend, and that's why he kills, because you know, he acts out that way. And I think that makes him a lot more, not vulnerable, but just a lot more interesting. And I really do agree with what Daisy's saying there. However, from these scenes, it really felt like this was like a final send off to Ward. Honestly, I think Ward's probably going to die next week. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I'm pretty sure they're going to kill off Ward because think about it. Malick has the upper hand right now. These two are pretty much at war before they are at war. You know what I mean? And Ward just killed Roz, and I'm assuming that Coulson's probably going to kill him. I mean, I don't see how this couldn't work. So Mack and team asks Banks about Project Distant Star, and Banks says it wasn't funded by NASA, but an independent contractor. That contractor was Malick, and now they know what's really going on here. Because remember, they still didn't really know what was going on with this whole NASA situation. They had an idea, but they didn't know that Malick was the one doing most of the legwork for this. So Ward reports back to Malick. Malick criticizes Ward for sending in those men when they need Coulson alive. He doesn't want to kill Coulson, and this is why I'm thinking Ward's probably going to die. Either Malick's going to take him out or Coulson's going to take him out. And, you know, because you can see that Malick is really not happy with the way that Ward is doing things. Again, this is Ward's boss. You know, Ward's no longer the big man here. Malick is clearly his boss, and Ward does not like that. So Malick opens a container with 5 stones extracted from the monolith, originally given to Hydra's leaders, and Malick worries that Ward is leaving too much to chance. But Ward is confident that he knows Coulson better than Coulson knows himself, and I would agree that Ward does know Coulson very, very well since he worked with Coulson, but I feel like Coulson has a few tricks up his sleeve that Ward just doesn't know about yet. So Lance tries to express condolences to Coulson, but Coulson just grabs him by the neck, slams against the wall. He does not want to be reminded about Roz's death. I mean, he does not want to hear about it, and Coulson blames Lance for not killing Ward when he had the mission, and I can understand why Coulson's upset at this. I mean, he told Lance specifically, you need to kill Ward, but we know that Lance's missions just don't usually work out very well. However, if he would have killed Ward, this would not have happened. It's true, that would not have happened, but Coulson doesn't realize that Lance just doesn't really carry out missions very well. So, Lance wants another chance, and Coulson gives him with Coulson coming along and Bobby as a pilot. So Coulson says he needs to cross some liners, and S.H.I.E.L.D. director shouldn't, and leaves Mack behind as interim director. And I thought it was interesting that he left Mack as a director, but he essentially did it because, Melinda's grieving over, well, everything that's happened with Andrew. Melinda's still getting over that. Daisy is just way too into Secret Warriors and into that, and just, she's not really the person to do this. And Mac is really the only person he trusts right now, which is very interesting. I wouldn't have thought Mac, but it does really make sense. I mean, Mac and Coulson are two people that really do understand each other very, very well, and I like seeing Mac be the director. It was really cool to see that. And the more they give to Mac, the more I love. I love that they've been giving Mac a lot more to do this season. That's something that they've been doing very, very well. So Fitzsimmons, Banks, and a couple men investigate the distant star facilities, and Jemma says that they can bring Will back, but that it would be doing what Hydra wants, and Fitz is skeptical of Hydra's story and says that they have to save Will, but they argue until Banks shoots both of their guards, and Banks says that it's not him, and the gun turns and shoots Banks in the head, and the Indian from the ATCU facility, Mr. Guerra, appears to collect Jemma and Fitz and takes them to Malick. So not only did they just kill Roz, they just killed the guy that could have given them the information, and now they can't get any information. So again, Malick really knows what he's doing here. I mean, it's awesome. I mean, it's really crazy, but it's awesome because I just love how in tune Hydra is to things. It's pretty crazy. So Coulson and Lance prepare to rob a bank, and I thought it was interesting how Coulson was basically doing something irrational just to distract, just to get to Ward. That's really what he's doing here. He's robbing a bank, and I knew Coulson was going to do something irrational. I just knew. I mean, it feels like all season long he's been holding this inside of him, and finally it's coming out, and I love that. So, Fitz and Jemma are brought to Malick and Ward, and Malick asks Jemma about the Inhuman, but Jemma isn't very cooperative. She doesn't want to reveal much, she doesn't want to reveal what's going on. She knows what Malick wants, and she doesn't want to give it to him. So, Jemma realizes that Hydra can open a portal, but doesn't even know how to return. So, Ward suggests that they split Fitz and Jemma up, which it's a very smart plan because they bounce off each other very well. They get information very well. And if they can't be in the same room, then they won't get any information. They won't have much contact. And they can't really do much into this whole Will situation. So I thought that was very smart on Ward's part. So Mac tells Daisy that Jemma and Fitz were taken by Hydra. Daisy wants to search them out, but Mac is reluctant. Mac calls Coulson. Coulson realizes that Ward mentioned the portal to set them up, essentially. That's what he's going to do here. He wants to set them up, and they enter the bank. Coulson finds someone in the back room, knocks him out, and Ward then ties Jemma to a pole and taunts her, and Ward says that he never do anything to hurt her, but he can't say the same for Mr. Guerra. And Ward leaves, and Guerra begins showing off his talents, levitating several metal tools. I mean, this was really hard to watch, especially for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. This got really graphic. I mean, it wasn't like Daredevil or Jessica Jones, but it went pretty far, I have to say. I was surprised by how graphic this episode is, especially for a show that's TVPG usually. I mean, it was really crazy. So Ward goes into a room where Fitz is tied to a chair, meanwhile, and Ward begins taunting Fitz over Jemma. They can hear Jemma screaming from the other room, and I thought it was interesting the way that he was physically torturing Jemma, but only mentally torturing Fitz. Because what would get Jemma to be most upset? If someone was insulting Fitz and there was nothing she could do about it. That's what would really get her upset, because we know that she clearly has feelings for Fitz. She kissed him in the last episode. They had something there. And if she was not able to defend Fitz, that's what would make Jemma the most upset. So that was very well thought out again on his part. And Ward just simply sits down and listens. He's planning this whole thing and he wants to do it very, very well. And then we get what I thought was an extremely brilliant plan from Coulson. I mean, I really didn't know, like I said, what Coulson was going to do. How can you go after Hydra? It seems nearly impossible at this point. And I thought he was just going to rob this bank, but that's not what he does. And I completely forgot about this character, but I like that they reintroduced him. I believe the last time we saw him was episode 9 of season 2. I thought that was the last time we saw him. And the man that Coulson abducted is Ward's brother Thomas, and basically, Coulson's planning to use Thomas as bait, which is very smart. The thing is, though, Thomas really doesn't want to see Ward right now because, of course, the way that Ward wronged him. He even says that when Ward pushed him down the well, that's when Ward changed. And Coulson then calls Ward from Rosalind's phone, and Coulson shows Ward a live video feed of his brother. Ward doubts that Coulson would hurt Thomas, so Lance puts a gun to Thomas's head. Coulson hangs up on Ward. I honestly thought they were just going to shoot him in the head and be like, you know what, we're going to kill him. So Coulson explains to Thomas that he has to be used as bait, and Thomas says they're going to do this and need to take Ward out when he comes, and I honestly think they're going to do that. I really do think they're going to kill him. And he says Ward has always heard people that everything Ward said about their child is true. Ward tried to protect Thomas until he changed one day, pushed Thomas in a well. After that, Ward was psychotically apologetic and swore to never hurt and let anyone hurt Thomas, but couldn't admit what had happened. And Ward calls back, and they put Thomas on the line to try to get Ward on the phone line enough to pinpoint his location. They get a lock, and Coulson takes the phone from Thomas. Ward realizes that they traced the call, and Coulson says he's coming for them. Ward is furious, throws the phone, barges into Jemma's room, demands she tell him what he wants to know, and Fitz can hear Jemma scream. It's crazy what's going on. There's so much going on, and I love that. So Coulson's team drops Thomas off. They know it's not going to work. They know that there's really nothing they can do at this point. I mean, it's crazy. These were really well thought out plans what Coulson was doing. It's just nothing really seems to affect Ward. So he promises there will be a security detail watching him because now they know that Thomas is even afraid of his brother. So there's really no reason in using him because he wants them to kill Ward, and Coulson knows that Ward could probably try to kill Thomas or something like that, and basically I like that they are putting the security detail watching him. So Mack wants Melinda's opinion on Andrew's violation of Lincoln, and Melinda isn't sure if it's Andrew's actual opinion or Lash's, and Mack explains what's going on with Coulson, and Jemma and Fitz, and basically Melinda tells Mack that he needs to make the call, and Melinda says that she thinks he already knows what to do. And if you remember, they had that whole conversation with Lincoln and Melinda, and they're trying to figure out really what's going on. Can Andrew come back, or is everything he just says fully lashed? They don't really understand. Remember, Andrew's still locked up. They never unchained him at this point, so that's probably going to be a huge thing for next week. Definitely, I think we're definitely going to touch upon what's going on with Andrew and Lash next week. So, Mr. Guerra brings Jemma to observe the opening of another portal, and Jemma refuses to help bring this Inhuman back. She wants nothing to do with it because it obviously tried to kill her. But Malick says that Fitz agreed to help instead in exchange for Hydra halting Jemma's torture. And that would make sense why Fitz did that. Obviously, it was the wrong thing to do, but again, Fitz will do anything for Jemma, and the only way to protect Jemma was to work with Hydra. And I really feel this could be really, really bad because we know that Jemma worked with Hydra and they didn't let her go, and I feel like the same thing's gonna happen with Fitz. Now, do I think that Fitz is gonna let them use him like this? No, I think that Fitz is eventually going to outwit them, but we'll have to see what he does here. I mean, this could be very interesting to see how they handle this whole situation. So Mack is mounting a rescue mission. Joey and Lincoln are part of the team, along with Daisy, Melinda, and a small team of soldiers. And they seem like they have their own little plan for what they're going to do with Hydra as well. So you got a lot of different things going on here, and I love that. But what I love about this is that this episode wasn't just set up. Like I said, there were other things going on. So Coulson's team is 10 minutes out from Hydra airspace. Bobby warns Coulson that he may be too emotional for the mission, and Coulson says he's been keeping his emotions in check for too long, and I do agree with that. Coulson really hasn't let too many things affected him, and this is something where he needs to. I mean, he really cared about Roz. He loved her. Even despite her wronging him, he still really cared about her, and she's the first person he's cared about in a very long time. So I thought that was a really effective scene, and I definitely really loved that. So Malick tells Ward it's time. Ward says he needs to prepare for when S.H.I.E.L.D. arrives. Malick says the S.H.I.E.L.D. won't get anywhere near them, and Malick wants Ward to lead their troops on the other side. But Ward doesn't plan to miss the opportunity for revenge, and Malick is very disappointed. He doesn't want him to go out for revenge. He clearly has a much more organized plan than Ward does, and Ward says that he won't be manipulating to sacrificing himself for someone else's dream, and Malick says that Ward is the only one that can do this, and that will prove his faith in Hydra was never misplaced, and I do agree what Malick is saying, that, we are the, Hydra is the one that can help him out, and that no matter what Ward does, he's not going to be able to get away from Hydra. His loyalties to Hydra and to Malick, and I feel like if he doesn't cooperate with Malick, Malick is going to kill him. I mean, I really feel like that's what's going to happen. There's definitely a power struggle between these two, and definitely Ward is not cooperating, so I definitely feel like something bad could happen next week with Ward. Honestly, I'm serious when I say I think Ward's probably going to die next week. So Jemma tries to talk Fitz out of the deal, but he refuses. Ward shows up in uniform, ready to lead the expedition. Now, I can understand why Fitz refused, because he knows if he refuses, they'll probably torture Jemma again. They'll probably continue doing that, and he obviously doesn't want that. So Ward shows up in uniform, ready to lead the expedition. The machine begins to open the portal. Coulson's team begins scanning the castle as they fly overhead and watch as Hydra soldiers begin jumping through. And Malick tells Ward that they'll turn the portal back on 12 hours. Ward jumps through. Coulson sees Ward jump through on a scanner, grabs a parachute, prepares to jump in. And Lance kisses Bobby goodbye, prepares to follow Coulson. Hydra begins firing at the ship before Lance can suit up, but Coulson dives straight down in the portal. And if you guys notice, they completely annexed the we'll return in a moment thing. They didn't do that in this episode, which I thought was interesting, because most times when they do that, what that usually means is we're going to cut to another scene that's setting up something that is going to be very imperative in the next few weeks. Thing is, though, there's nothing to set up now. We've set everything up. Everything's in play. We need to start seeing things play out, and I thought that was very cool the way they did that. I mean, I've never seen an episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. not have the "we'll return in a moment," but this episode didn't. They didn't have that, and I thought that was really great the way they did that, because it just made for a much more effective episode, and I think made me much more into it. I'm like, wow, they actually got rid of it. So, and I like the we'll return a moment. I think it's really cool the way they do that. Sometimes it can get a bit annoying, but for this episode, we didn't need it. I like that we didn't have it here. Because if it would have ended this way, I would not have liked that. I love the way this episode ends. On the planet, Hydra's team begins exploring. They hear a sound and look around but see nothing. Coulson comes through the portal with such velocity that he's sent tumbling down the side of a cliff and hits his head on the stone as he lands. And you don't know what's going to happen to him. He's probably going to be knocked out. Hydra's probably going to get to him. We're going to have to see what happens with that. But that's how the episode ends, and holy shit, guys, what an episode. The thing I love most about this episode is that it seems like everyone really has their own little plan. Fitz and Jemma. Fitz clearly has a plan. He's gonna get himself out of this, and he's gonna get Jemma out of this too. We just don't know what it is yet. I know that there's something that Fitz has planned. What it is, I just don't know. I don't think Jemma knows either. So I like that we know as much as Jemma knows, which is nothing, pretty much. I mean, we pretty much know nothing that Fitz is gonna do, and I really love that. What is going to happen with this whole situation? I mean, clearly, like I said, Malick has a plan, but Ward does not want to follow it, and I feel like Ward is going to get himself killed because of that. I know that Ward's the main character, but it really just felt like, the scenes with them all talking about their experience with Ward really feels like they're setting up the end of Ward. I really feel like that's what we're setting up here, and that Ward's probably going to die next week. I could definitely see that happening. My other big thing is that a lot of people thought they were going to set up that whole secret agent spinoff with Lance and Bobby. They do need to do that. So I'm assuming that we're not going to... Lance and Bobby are probably going to leave the show next week or very soon. Because, again, guys, this is a huge hiatus. It's not coming back till March. And I hate it. I know you guys hate it, but Agent Carter does come back, so that's awesome, but I don't want a long hiatus. It was really annoying last year. It's going to be just annoying next year, but, as long as we get a real kick-ass episode next week, that's all I care about. I'm hearing next week's episode is huge. What is going to happen with Mack's group? I mean, they also have a much bigger plan that we don't know about. They know what's happened to Jemma and Fitz, so they're probably going to rescue them. Let's talk about this whole situation with Melinda and Mack. Are they going to break Andrew out of prison? I mean, I feel like that's what their initial plan is here. I mean, they want to find out what's going on with Andrew. The only way to do that is to break him out of the ATCU. With Roz dead, there's really no reason they can't do that. Problem is, Hydra's controlling that too, which I think they know, but I think they just think it's going to be a bit easier than they think it's going to be because they have a much bigger army. It's just Hydra has an even bigger army than they think they do. And Secret Warriors is definitely starting. I mean, you can definitely tell that that's what they're setting up here because who have been the two most consistent? You have Mack and Daisy, and it really seems like this is the beginning of Secret Warriors. I love that, and it's something we've been building up to all season, and I love that we finally saw it here. My only complaint with this episode that Daisy really didn't have too much to do. I would have wanted to see, especially an episode with Secret Warriors being established, I would want to see more of Daisy's passion, but I feel like we've seen enough of that we didn't really need to see that. Lincoln was barely in this entire episode except for this one scene here, so it did feel a bit strange that suddenly, oh, Lincoln's with this group, but he's become such, an essential part of the group that I can understand why he just fit in very, very well, you know what I mean? I thought that he fit in well for the most part, but, overall, guys, what an amazing episode. Like I said, I have no idea what is going to happen next week. It is beyond me what is going to happen in next week's episode. I don't know how they're going to top this week. I really don't. How can you top Roz's death? Again, I know that Roz wasn't a main character. I know Constance Zimmer, that's her name. I know Constance Zimmer was going to leave because, of course, she's a main character in Unreal Season 2, and I believe they're going to start filming in, like, January or something like that. But I did not think they were going to kill her off, and I think it's really great the way they did that. Well, not great, but I think I'm very happy that they actually had the balls to kill off a character like Roz, who is a character that very well could have stayed on till the end of the season and could have been like Lincoln, who wasn't necessarily pointless, but didn't, let's face it, didn't have nearly as much to do last season as he does this season. I definitely feel like he has a lot more to do this season, and I really like that. But let me know what you guys thought of this episode. I absolutely loved this episode. Once again, another amazing episode. So much to love in this episode. Let me know what you guys thought of it. What's going to happen next week? I don't know what's going to happen. And I will see you guys in the next video, which will be for part 2 of Flash Arrow Heroes Join Forces. This time will be the Arrow episode, which part 1 was amazing. And I don't know how they're going to top it in part 2, but I feel like they're going to. We'll have to see. But I will see you guys in the next video, which will be for that. And I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.